Hey, and welcome back to Miss Kitty's Wild West Adventures, and happy day after Thanksgiving to all my viewers. Now, most of us think of Thanksgiving and we think about happy gatherings and family gathered around the table, filling our bellies with some tasty food. But in 1864, just a few days after Thanksgiving, one of the darkest moments in American history occurred, the Sand Creek Massacre. In November of 1864, the Cheyenne and Arapaho people were living under what they believed was the protection of the U.S. government. Led by Chief Blackkettle's, many had camped along Sand Creek in Colorado Territory, flying both an American flag and a white flag of peace above their camp. But despite their belief in protection, tensions were rising in the Colorado Territory. White people were encroaching on native lands, and the governor of Colorado, along with other military leaders, wanted to rid the land of the native inhabitants. To understand how things reached this point, we need to look back at the treaties that were meant to establish peace, but in reality only laid the groundwork for conflict. The Treaty of Fort Laramie of 1851 had recognized the Cheyenne and Arapaho as sovereign peoples and had promised them territory. But as settlers pushed west, those promises quickly became hollow. By 1861, the U.S. government signed the Treaty of Fort Wise, which drastically reduced the size of land promised to the Cheyenne and Arapaho in earlier treaties. The new treaty was signed under pressure, and many Cheyenne leaders, including Blackkettle's, resisted it. They were forced to live within the confines of this new, much smaller reservation. Meanwhile, Colonel John Chivington, a former Methodist preacher, believed that Native Americans posed a threat to American expansion and needed to be wiped out. By the fall of 1864, tensions in the Colorado Territory had reached a boiling point, and Governor John Evans called for an all-out campaign to eliminate the Indian menace from the land. On November 29, 1864, Chivington led a force of 700 soldiers in a surprise attack against the peaceful camp at Sand Creek. Flying an American flag and a white flag of truce, the Cheyenne and Arapaho believed that they were protected, but what followed was a brutal slaughter. Chivington's men stormed the camp, killing anyone that they encountered. Women, children, and the elderly fell victim to the U.S. soldiers' charge. Estimates suggest that between 150 and 500 Cheyenne and Arapaho were murdered that day. The violence was horrific. Eyewitness accounts describe unspeakable acts, with soldiers mutilating bodies. The soldiers even took scalps and other body parts as trophies. Many soldiers, including one named Silas Sewell, refused to participate and even testified against Chivington in later charges. As the truth of what happened spread, there were numerous investigations, and Congress even condemned the Sand Creek Massacre. But despite this, no one was really ever held accountable. The Sand Creek Massacre only deepened the wounds between Native Americans and the U.S. government. The survivors of Sand Creek were left scarred, and it wasn't long before peace negotiations collapsed entirely, leading to more violent conflicts around the West. Now, as we sit around this weekend with our family and friends and enjoy our Thanksgiving leftovers, it's important to remember stories like this that often get forgotten. The Sand Creek Massacre is a reminder of the deep scars that are left behind in American expansion. This massacre forever changed the relationship between Native Americans and the U.S. government. It's a history that we must remember, not just for the tragedy, but for the strength of those who survived and carried on. Thank you for joining me for this special Thanksgiving episode of Miss Kitty's Wild West Adventures. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and ding the bell for notifications. And in the meantime, I'll catch you on down the trail.